2 days ago, this happened. A work of Van Gogh was thrown soup at to protest against climate change, or more specifically, climate inaction, and people are really pissed about it. Why do the people that have achieved nothing tear down the achievements of others so readily? That will certainly help the climate. Sometimes these people do the most stupid and pointless things that have nothing to do with climate activism. They should be made to pay for the damage. Oh, that work of art is priceless. A reasonable sentence would be community service for life. This is why nobody takes any of this seriously. This motivates me to build my own coal-fired power plant. These comments are evidence that the action worked at capturing people's attention, which in our world becomes increasingly difficult. But what some are asking is, did it win people over? And many are saying no. You probably know Emmeline Pankhurst, the leader of the suffragettes in the UK. We can now all agree that her cause was just, that it was a good thing that she fought for the right for women to vote. Pankhurst and the suffragettes, to stir people up, accomplished many actions that were despised by the general public. We are not destroying orchid houses, breaking windows, cutting telegraph wires, injuring golf greens in order to win the approval of the people who were attacked. If the general public were pleased with what we are doing, that would be a proof that our warfare is ineffective. We don't intend that you should be pleased. And when golfers asked why the suffragettes were fighting them, she answered, "We are not fighting you because you play golf. We are not fighting you at all, but trying to stir you up. Tell us you sympathize with us. We are determined, even at the price of your sympathy, to stir you up to do something." Now, I want to go back to the National Gallery in London and Van Gogh's Sunflowers. This is an art history channel. I love art, I criticize it, I defend it, I engage with it. If you know me simply as being an art history lover, you probably clicked on this video thinking I'd be opposed to the action of Just Stop Oil activists. I support it. I support it for 4 reasons. First, there was no damage done to the painting. Second, even if there was some damage done to the painting, and I know this might be controversial, I don't think the original work of art is that important, if you wonder why I made a video on that topic. Third, when serious action is needed urgently, this kind of stunt can be necessary, and I hope more come in the future. Individual citizens are often powerless when it comes to affecting systemic change. Climate change, more than anything, cannot be fought against individually. You can reduce your carbon footprint as much as you want. It's not going to do much because you're fighting individually a collective struggle. When facing governments and corporations whose power rely on the destruction of the planet through an unsustainable economic system, what are we supposed to do? Voting isn't working, individual change isn't working, peaceful protests aren't working. Arguably, direct action isn't working either, but it's a last resort. When everything else fails, direct action becomes necessary. If you care about climate change, your scope of action becomes increasingly limited. The more inactive we are now, the more radical the actions will need to be in the future. Now, the real question is, did these activists go too far by attacking a work of art? The 4th reason is because inaction will lead to the destruction of all art. Action, even if it destroys some works of art, will save works of art. These activists, more than anyone else, are fighting for the conservation of these artworks. In the opening paragraph of Mark Fisher's Capitalist Realism, Fisher talks about how, in the movie Children of Men, the elite still try to conserve art even though they live in a world where it's impossible to have babies. The main character asks the question, how all this can matter if there will be no one to see it. The alibi can no longer be future generations since there will be none. The response is nihilistic hedonism. I try not to think about it. What we need to take away from these activists and their action is, if our current inaction persists, the very concept of art becomes futile. If last resort actions such as the ones made by Just Stop Oil have the slightest of chances to stir people up to do something, as Pankhurst would say, then they're worth exploring. They're worth exploring, encouraging, and supporting because that's how we'll save humanity and art. The nihilistic hedonism, the I try not to think about it, the climate activists should tone it down, is what's most dangerous to art. I support these activists because I care about art. I care about its conservation in the future. I support these activists because our path to action has been increasingly limited. We're shown more and more that traditional means for change are ineffective and will kill humanity. will kill art. If you feel the urgency as I do, then you'll understand that as our options for change decrease, our tolerance for different modes of action will need to increase. More and more, this kind of action will happen, will need to happen, and we need to support it. If no systemic changes are made, with stakes as big as climate change, it'll become harder for climate activists to go too far. Considering that these actions are aimed at preserving art, that they can stir people up, that they can insist on the urgency of the problem, I have no problem supporting them. The work to be done now is to inspire in others this urgency. We are determined, even at the price of your sympathy, to stir you up to do something.
What is worth more, art or life? Is it worth more than food? Worth more than justice? Are you more concerned about the protection of a painting or the protection of our planet and people? The cost of living crisis is part of the cost of oil crisis. Fuel is unaffordable to millions of cold, hungry families. They can't even afford to heat a tin of soup. Meanwhile, crops are failing. Millions of people are dying in monsoons, wildfires, and severe drought. We cannot afford new oil and gas. It is going to take everything we know and love.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for liking and subscribing if you have already. And I'd like to thank, as always, Roman Brandel, Mike Wex, and every other patron for supporting the channel. If you also want to support the channel and appear in the credits, you can donate $1 or more at patreon.com/thecanvas. Thank you.